Good morning, everybody. Wow, what an interesting day I yesterday. Like I said, it was a fire hose and it just hasn't stopped. Man, just the amount of stuff that is out there coming out. Ah, you guys have, I'm sure if you haven't, man, I don't know what rock you've been hiding under, but of course you heard that Karen Reed ended in a mistrial. That Proctor got his ass handed to him and is no longer an investigator for the court, which means he's no longer in that position in his police force. They've removed him from investigating any more crimes. And it's still under investigation. Not pending investigation, it's under investigation. They're probably going to go look at a lot of his old cases. Mm. Good way to screw yourself. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Jeffrey. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Be there in a minute. Just go. Oh, that's me. Ha. Yes. Good morning, Risa. How are you doing? She'll see pulled an expert. No. Last night I'll explain a little bit later. Good morning, Risa. Oh, good morning, Just Dawn. The lovely Just Dawn. How are you? Risa, yes. Buenos dias. How you doing, Captain Curran? Good to see you. It's a good day to have a good day. Every day is a good day to have a good day. Good morning, Brenda. Good morning, all. Yes, it is. So I was able to catch a little bit of Baker's yesterday, which was really cool. About the time that came through, which told me all I needed to know. I mean, like, it's screw the sitting around waiting. I mean, I understand you have to, but good Lord, he has been he has been so steadfast that it's just amazing to me. He you tease you well, please tease more. Please tease more, Risa. And good morning, Melanie Beeman. But yes, now almost immediately the prosecution has said that they are going to retry this. Oh, that's always that's doesn't doesn't look good. They might want to pull their head out of their nether regions and think twice about it. Just it does not look good on them. Mm. I think one person on that trial on that jury was saying, "Nah, I don't like it." But we'll see. We'll see how things go. It's never a good look whenever you've got a mistrial. That means somebody couldn't decide one way or the other. If somebody is being really difficult one way or the other. Never know. Um, it is, and then of course we have the um, what was it? What was it that I was talking about? Damn it! Oh, the Uvalde guys. Those are up in front of the court again. And what? No, can't believe that. Then, well, I'll explain what happened last night. Oops, I guess it's afternoon for me. Oh, is it? Hmm. No, what happened was the last night while I was hanging with MG and expert, I lost power. like, like it went. I was like, oh, beautiful. So yeah, whenever I lose power, a lot of stuff shuts down. I've got Wi-Fi, all that kind of crap shuts down. Then I have to make sure everything's back up for the wife. So that's why I was running a little bit late this morning. Just it happens. No, power is never good. My neighborhood, for whatever reason, does this on a regular basis. Mm. But yeah, if you were watching last night, you probably saw everything blink and flicker and then went out. I have no idea. More than likely, a giant tree fell somewhere. It happens. Broken Baker did a great job. Yes, he did make the jury deliberation entertaining. I enjoy Baker immensely. He is so he is he's been doing this just about as long as I have, and to see him just grow the way that he does, because the amount of time that he puts in on all of it is like is like a full-time job. I mean, he busts his ass every single time that he's on. And it's just it is great to see. And it's like most kudos to that man. Like you cannot take any of that away from him. Well, you can, but I don't know why you'd want to. I mean, he plays by all the rules. Mm, it's great. It's great to see. And that's what we want for everybody that gets in this space and does this stuff. Uh well, he blames it on squirrels. Now that was a possibility. Wait until one of those little bastards bite it. You threw that cornstarch covered electrical cable. Yeah. Yeah. Squirrels, rats, yeah. They'll do some damage. And I'm sure you guys heard about the Supreme Court ruling yesterday. Oh, that was that was such a big deal. Such such a big deal. And so important to so many people that even Biden couldn't contain himself. He couldn't contain himself. And if you listen close, which I haven't heard this yet, but be paying close attention because it may sound a little bit like he's using his power to go after what was a sitting president at the time. I'm not saying he did, not saying he didn't. I'm just saying listen real closely to his words because he may be pushing for immunity for himself. He may be showing that he's attacking and going after a sitting president. I don't know, but we are about to watch it and find out. Let's see what exactly his remarks were and are straight from his mouth.
The presidency is the most powerful office in the world.
No, it's not. I'll tell you right there. No, it's not. Presidency is not the most powerful position in the world. It's the most powerful position in the United States. And the rest of the countries, they are their own.
It's an office that not only tests your judgment,
No, that's not what the office is about.
perhaps even more importantly, it's an office that can test your character.
Now, that is true. It can test your character. Now, you have very little judgment, as was shown by your handling of the debate on Thursday.
Because you not only face moments when you need the courage to exercise the full power of the presidency, you also face moments where you need the wisdom to respect the limits of the power of the office.
Which he has failed to do. He's used his power for bad. Not saying that Trump was infallible and didn't make mistakes. It does happen. But you have to own those mistakes, which Biden has not been able to do. Just say Afghanistan and border and Ukraine and Israel. And I mean, I could just go on and on with all of the things that he's failed at, economy, we can continue on those. Whatever one wife wants. There you go. He is King Biden now. He is immune from what's good for the goose is good for the gander. That's not true. You think, but that's not true. There are certain things that you are not allowed to do. That's why you have a Congress that can impeach you. That's why you have senators that can impeach you. That's why you have the American people that can refuse to vote you in for another 4 years. As it happened with Trump. He was not voted in for another 4 years. This man has been running the country for the past 4 years and has not taken any responsibility for what he has done.
The office of the presidency. This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America.
Yes, absolutely. Never has been, never will be. But on that same aspect, a president has to be able to make decisions without having to worry about a lynch mob coming after him because they just don't like the decision. That makes sense? Yes, should.
Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law.
And I hope he remembers this when his son goes to prison for tax evasion. I hope he remembers this. I hope he remembers this whenever his son goes to prison for having a firearm and lying on a federal form. I hope he remembers this whenever they start coming after his people. I hope he remembers this whenever it's him on the receiving end. Because he did things in office as vice president, which does not carry that same immunity, that would end any vice president in prison for the rest of their doddering days.
Not even the President of the United States.
And that's not true. That's not true. There's certain things that the president is allowed to do. It's not a granted immunity over every single thing that is done. But for him to be able to make those decisions, there's certain immunities that a president has to have. If you want to take away that possibility, then my suggestion is we start arresting politicians. We need to start with Obama. We need to start with him on 2 counts of murder and have him tried and convicted before he even gets a court date. I mean, if you want to go by these rules that he's placing down, that he should be behind bars right now, immediately. If you want to apply those rules, if you want to apply those same rules, then we need to go after your predecessor. Trump's predecessor. Go after Obama. Consider this. He's too feeble and old to stand trial, but he was good to debate. Can we say double standard? Yeah, exactly.
Today's Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity, that fundamentally changed.
No, it never changed. Nothing changed. That's the thing. Nothing changed. This is the way that it's always been. It's the same way that they spin the Roe v. Wade.
For all practical purposes, today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do.
Wrong. There's a thing called impeachment, and it still can work. The only problem is he was not impeached for the same stuff that you're trying to go after him now. This shows you that the Biden administration has been on the attack, that has been going after Donald Trump, this shows every single bit of it. They just showed their hand. They said, hey, we've been going after him, and the Supreme Court just stopped us in our tracks. So we're going to have to take another avenue. So it's almost like that Teflon Don is coming true. Not saying that it is. I'm just saying it's almost like it is coming true. They keep throwing things at him, and it's just sliding off of him. And it looks like it doesn't even affect him. And that pisses them off because they want him to be angry. They want him to be bombastic. They want him stuttering and sputtering, but he doesn't. He comes out. He looks like he's been running the country for the past 4 years. I would even say almost looks as healthy as he did whenever he went into office in 2016. I'm not saying he does. I would say he almost does. Just the way that he carries himself, the way that he presents himself. I think he's gotten a little bit less bombastic in his responses. And if you see any time that he's gotten bombastic, I'll call you today. Ooh, nice. I like that. What are you calling me?
This is a fundamentally new principle,
No, it's not.
and it's a dangerous precedent
No, it's not.
because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States.
Yes, it will. But you have to you have to impeach him. You have to impeach the president. If you don't do it while he's in office, then you just don't go after him whenever he's out of office. And that's all they've been doing. He needs to actually read the decision from Scopes because they didn't give blanket immunity. It's a limited immunity for certain acts while president. Exactly. And it is only while you are president. And it's only certain acts. And none of the actions that he did outside of that can they go after him.
The only limits will be self-imposed by the president alone.
Mm-hmm.
This decision today has continued the court's attack in recent years on a wide range of long established.
Now he's going after the Supreme Court. That's not a good idea. Don't be going after the Supreme Court. You're going after the highest court in the land. You're degrading the Supreme Court. That is no different than degrading the presidency, no different than degrading any other branch of the government. It's just like saying, well, the legislative. If you don't like what the legislative is doing, then just wait because it'll change. They are the ones that write the laws. You have the executive that carries out whatever laws are written, and you have the judicial that tells you and interprets what the laws are. They don't make the decision. They give an interpretation of what the laws are. You idiot.
Established legal principles in our nation.
No.
From gutting voting rights and civil rights to taking away a woman's right to choose.
This has nothing to do with the Supreme Court's decision. Supreme Court decision yesterday was over presidential immunity. There were other cases up there also, but that's what it was. It had nothing to do with anything that this idiot is talking about. Now, if you don't like the fact that they kicked Roe v. Wade out and said the states handle this, that's your problem. Roe v. Wade's gone. It's over with. You can't bring it back. You can try and try and try again, but it's not going to come back. Now, if you want to bring something new about, then you're welcome to do that. But that's also going to have to be the legislative branch that brings that about. You can't do it. This is what he's pissed off about. Well, I should say the left is really pissed off about. If you want to pass a law that covers the entire country, then you have to write the law. I can't listen without saying, you idiot. Yes. You have legislative writes the law. They have failed to write a law in. If you want a law passed, instead of sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, sit down, hammer it out, figure out what law you want to have, come up with something that everybody can agree with, and move on with your day. But you can't do that. Why? Because you're looking to get elected next year. And this has to be one of your biggest talking points is this bullshit. Supreme Court, they did the right thing. Even Ginsburg said, this is the right move. And I will hammer this over and over and over and over again. It has nothing to do with their decision yesterday. Their decision yesterday was about Trump's immunity of things while he was president. And I'll bring it up later so you guys can see exactly what that was all about.
To today's decision that undermines the rule of law of this nation.
No, it doesn't.
Nearly 4 years ago, my predecessor sent a violent mob to the U.S. Capitol.
No, he didn't. This is another lie. This is another lie that they want you to believe. He did not send anyone to the U.S. Capitol except to have their voices heard. If you don't believe me, watch the speech. I'm not talking about the edited speech. I'm talking about the speech that he made. He said, I will see you down on the grounds. I'm paraphrasing here. I'll see you down on the grounds. Make your voices heard. Go and protest, peacefully protest, and make your voices heard. They need to be able to hear you. They need to be able to redress. You have that ability. People did really crappy things on that day. That is not the president's fault. Just like it's nobody else's fault whenever, this guy is completely being abused as an elder. Not our fault. There's something we can do about it, but it's not our fault that there's clearly elder abuse going on with this guy. It is horrible. The lies flip the ginger switch. Yeah, I know. I don't blame you.
To stop the peaceful transfer of power.
No, it was because they were addressing what was going on. It's no different than the one I showed yesterday, where the man goes into a school board meeting and completely lambasts them. He was addressing his grievances, and you, as being hired by him or by the rest of the American people, should be listening. But you just told all those people that showed up, eat cake. The reason why it got so out of hand and could have been quelched much sooner had Nancy Pelosi been doing her job. Yes, Nancy, you should have been doing your job, but you didn't. You failed on so many levels.
We all saw it with our own eyes. We sat there and watched it happen that day. Attack on the police.
You didn't see shit. Sorry. You didn't see diddly squat. You were asleep. You were asleep. You didn't see anything until after it was all said and done. Why? Because you could have addressed it also. But you were dead asleep. You were napping.
The ransacking of the Capitol. A mob literally hunting down the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, no, 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 no. Another lie, another lie, another lie. It's just like they're saying that AOC was hunted down. No, she wasn't even in the building.
Pelosi. Gallows erected to hang the Vice President, Mike Pence.
Where? When? Proof. Show me proof.
I think it's fair to say it's one of the darkest days in the history of America.
No, no, and no. You want to know one of the darkest days in the history of America? It was a day that that a man went into Uvalde. You want to know one of the darkest days in history of America? When there were 450 cops that did absolutely nothing to stop him. You want to know one of the darkest days in history? Was whenever we had some people that didn't agree with the United States put a couple of planes into towers and bring them down. You want to know what one of the darkest days of America was? The day that we had to unleash our troops onto the beaches of Normandy. You want to know what one of the darkest days of America was? Whenever Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. I mean, I could go on and on. One of the darkest days was whenever the North attacked the South. Want to know one of the darkest days? Whenever we had to fight off England. I mean, we can go on and on about darkest days. January 6th was at the very minimum a blip. But you've turned it into some sort of political win. I don't think so. We can talk about the millions of illegals that have walked across the border. We're not talking about thousands. We're talking about millions. And how many of those want to bring good to our country? USS Liberty. I mean, we can go through dark days. I guarantee January 6th was a blip. Just a small blip. But you don't know that, do you? You're just reading what's on your teleprompter.
Now the man who sent that mob to the U.S. Capitol
No, he didn't.
is facing potential criminal conviction.
Of what? Of what? How is he facing potential criminal conviction? I mean, 18.5 million in 3 years? That's an invasion. Yes.
What happened that day?
No.
And the American people deserve to have an answer in the courts before the upcoming election.
Oh, before the upcoming election. As I said, watch what he says, and it will become very clear that the Biden administration is behind sending these people after Trump. They've endorsed it. They've done this, and now their hand is showing. That statement right there just shows exactly what their stance is. They went after a sitting president. They attacked him for 4 years as a sitting president, making up shit like Russia. They did that for almost his entire presidency. They went after him over Ukraine. They've gone after him over Stormy Daniels. They've gone after him over every single aspect of his life. Taxes, buildings that he's owned in New York City. They've gone on the attack every which way. Every which way. And it's in that last statement, it shows exactly what they are about. They are using the justice system to go after their editor. This shows you the level of fear that this administration has of Donald Trump regaining power. And if they're doing it to a guy that has millions of dollars, think about what they would do to you, the regular American going about your day, unless you toe their line. If you don't toe their line, where does that put you? They will take away your Second Amendment. They will take your right for freedom of speech. They will throw you in prison. They will do everything they possibly can. And they just showed their hand in that last statement. They are after you. They want to take your children. They want to take your guns. They want to take away your speech. They want to take everything away from you. They believe that you are entitled. And you have this entitlement attitude. And they want to take everything away from you. They want to turn this country into a third world country where they are your permanent rulers. They don't realize it, but every action that they're making is telling you who the true insurrectionists are. Every bit of their actions are telling you the evil that they want to do. They want to bring America to its knees. They don't realize it, but that's what they're doing. Be very wary of people like this. And I don't think this president's competent enough to know what the rest of his administration is doing behind the scenes.
The public has a right to know the answer about what happened on January 6th before they are asked to vote again this year.
You've been going over this for 4 years, which means for 4 years you've had people in prison. 4 years you've had people in prison. And it's not nice the way they're treating them. It's more than just, oh, being in prison. No.
Now, because of today's decision, that is highly, highly unlikely. It's a terrible disservice to the people of this nation. So now the American people have to do what the courts should have been willing to do, but will not. The American people have to render a judgment about Donald Trump's behavior.
Really? They did. They did. Who did they vote into presidency? The American people spoke. They voted you in. You're just sore because Donald Trump didn't come and shake your hand and bid you welcome. You're just salty. I mean, Trump was a sore loser on that aspect. I mean, he truly believes that the left did everything that he's accused them of. There's a lot of questions out there that haven't been answered, and it's because they haven't been brought in front of a court, and they never will be. And so for the next few months, all the way up until the next election, it is going to be attacking Trump. It is going to be constantly calling him a criminal. You're going to be voting for a criminal. Really? A convicted criminal? What about the unconvicted criminal that's standing right there before us? What about the unconvicted criminal and his criminal son? What about the unconvicted criminal standing in front of us and his criminal wife? Because, yeah, it's criminal way that she's been abusing him.
The American people must decide whether Donald Trump's assault on our democracy on January 6th makes him unfit for public office in the highest office in the land.
No, you had the chance to impeach him, and that didn't happen. You had the chance to go after him. That didn't happen. You had every opportunity, and you didn't start bringing charges until he announced that he was coming back. Once he announced he was coming back, that's whenever you brought your charges about.
The American people must decide if Trump's embrace of violence to preserve his power is acceptable. Perhaps most importantly, the American people must decide if they want to entrust the president once again, the presidency, to Donald Trump, now knowing he'll be even more emboldened to do whatever he pleases whenever he wants to do it.
Jeez.
You know, at the outset of our nation, it was the character of George Washington, our first president, to find the presidency. He believed power was limited, not absolute.
It is. That's why we have 3 branches of government. You failed to use 2 of them. You failed to recognize 2 of them. You've come across as being the supreme leader. You have gone after the president. I guarantee you, if Trump comes in there, that he's not going to go after you, Biden. I guarantee you that he has no desire to have you arrested for the crimes that you committed before you became president. It doesn't appear to me that he's going after you on the issues of Ukraine and you calling for a special prosecution to end before you would release funds. I guarantee that he could give two shits less about you. That is an amazing thought, that he does not care about you. You are absolutely meaningless in him trying to bring our country back to being as great as it once and could be. Again, yeah, this country was founded on acts of violence. Oh, how history is changed. Yes. It's not forgotten. It's just changed.
And that power always resides with the people, always. Now, over 200 years later, today's Supreme Court decision, once again, it'll depend on the character of the men and women who hold that presidency that are going to define the limits of the power of the presidency, because the law will no longer do it.
No, the law does it. You just have to pass a law for it to do. This is why we have three branches of government and not one. This is why we are a constitutional republic and not a democracy. Biden is very salty on this, and it goes to show, and he's reading a teleprompter, so I very much doubt he even knows what he's saying. Somebody is feeding him what to say, and that's what he's doing. He's reading off of a teleprompter, and he's telling everybody what the administration believes. Ah, so horrible.
I know I will respect the limits of the presidential powers I have for 3.5 years.
You haven't.
But any president, including Donald Trump, will now be free to ignore the law.
Not true.
I concur with Justice Sotomayor's
Nothing
dissent
changed
today.
Oh, that's not a good. You don't want to be doing that. This will come back and bite you, Joe. Don't do it.
Here's what she said. She said, in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law.
Not true.
With fear for our democracy, I dissent. End of quote. So should the American people dissent.
So you're saying that you should take one judge over the multitude of judges that disagree with that. Just because she dissents doesn't mean jack squat. That's just her stance on it.
I dissent. May God bless you all, and may God help preserve our democracy. Thank you.
Again, we are not a democracy. Because the reason why we're not a democracy is the same reason why, or it shows you exactly why going after Trump has been a bad idea, because you've taken away his rights. You have become the lynch mob. You have become what is all that's bad about democracy. Hey, how's it going, Jack? Look, two awesome dogs. Biden does look orange. Yeah. Yeah, but that's not his fault. That's the White House's. It's lighting. I don't ever stress it. Ugh.
May God protect our troops.
Oh, and of course they cut off before. Now this is from the White House. They cut all of that off before he could get it all out. Isn't that wonderful how they do that? Beautiful. They're making a big deal of a photo of Trump's plane parked next to a Russian plane on a secure lot at the airport. No one was on them. Oh yeah, I don't even pay attention to that kind of crap. That's sort of like the spotting of Bigfoot. That's where I put it at. And of course, we have our spin. We have our spin from the wonderful world of AP News. What to know about the Supreme Court immunity ruling in Trump's 2020 election interference case? What? That's not what they ruled on. That is not what they ruled on. And I will bring that up because this is very important. That is not what they ruled on. Oh, Jesus. I hate having to do this. It has to be done, though. Good Lord Almighty. Let's bring this one up. 39. There we go. Good Lord Almighty. These idiots are having to do it. Ah, there we go. Top screen, present, share screen, and we will bring this window up here because Trump versus United States, certiorari to the United States Supreme Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. The federal grand jury indicted former President Donald Trump on 4 counts of conduct that occurred during his presidency following the November 2020 election. The indictment alleged that after losing that election, Trump conspired to overturn it by spreading knowingly false claims of election fraud to obstruct the collecting, counting, and certifying of election results. Trump moved to dismiss the indictment based on presidential immunity, arguing that a president has absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions performed within the outer perimeter of his official responsibilities, and that the indictment's allegations fell within the core of his official duties. The district court denied his motion to dismiss, and then it basically says both district court and DC circuit declined to decide whether the indicted conduct involved official acts. And this is where it's at. Held under our constitutional structure of separated powers, the nature of criminal presidential power entitles a former president to absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions within his conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority. He is entitled to at least presumptive immunity from prosecution for all his official acts. There is no immunity for unofficial acts. Okay? Big difference between official and unofficial. Now, if he were to say, for example, pull the trigger and maybe do a little jab on somebody, he's not immune from that unless he was doing it in as his official capacity as president. Like if someone runs up on stage and attacks him, then he's going to be held immune from having to dispatch of their corpse. That being said, in his official duty, he was doing what all presidents do. The case is the first criminal prosecution in our nation's history of a former president for actions taken during his presidency. Determining whether and under what circumstances such a prosecution may proceed requires careful assessment of the scope of presidential power under the Constitution. The nature of that power requires that a former president have some immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts during his tenure in office, at least with respect to the president's exercise of his core constitutional powers. This immunity must be absolute. As for his remaining official actions, he is entitled to at least presumptive immunity. And then it goes through all of the reasons. Not all the president's official acts fall within his conclusive and preclusive authority. The reasons that justify the president's absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for acts within the scope of his exclusive constitutional authority do not extend to conduct in areas where authority is shared with Congress. To determine the president's immunity in this context, the court looks primarily to the framers' design of the presidency within the separation of powers, precedent on presidential immunity in the civil context, and the criminal cases where a president resisted prosecutorial demands for documents. Nice. And we can go on down through here. The words, possibility of damages, actions. By contrast, when prosecutors have sought evidence from the president, the court has consistently rejected presidential claims of absolute immunity. During the treason trial of former Vice President Aaron Burr, for instance, Chief Justice Marshall rejected President Thomas Jefferson's claim that the president could not be subjected to a subpoena. Marshall simultaneously recognized and blah, blah, blah. So it's basically just going down through a long history. If you don't believe me, go pull up this information on your own. It is all there. And we'll go down to all of this. Kagan and Jackson joined. Jackson filed a dissenting opinion, and we'll just bring it down here. This case poses a question of lasting significance. When may a former president be prosecuted for official acts taken during his presidency? And answering that question, unlike the political branches and the public at large, the court cannot afford to fixate exclusively or even primarily on present exigencies. Exigencies, something like that. Enduring separation of powers principles guide our decision in this case. The president enjoys no immunity for his unofficial acts, and not everything the president does is official. The president is not above the law, but under our system of separated powers, the president may not be prosecuted for exercising his core constitutional powers, which includes freedom of speech. He is entitled to at least presumptive immunity from prosecution for his official acts. That immunity applies equally to all occupants of the Oval Office. Vacated and remanded. Robert C. J. delivered the opinion of the court in which Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh, J.J., joined in full, and in which Barrett J. joined except as to Part 3-C. Thomas J. filed the concurring opinion. Barrett J. filed an opinion concurring in part. Sotomayor J. filed a dissenting opinion in which Kagan and Jackson joined. Jackson J. filed a dissenting opinion. That is where it lies. And as it says right here, unlike the political branches and the public at large, the court cannot afford to fixate exclusively or even primarily on this. The president enjoys no immunity for his unofficial acts, and not everything the president does is official. The president is not above the law, and that's not what Biden just said. Right there, black and white and blue. He lied to the American people. That right there should be concerning. That right there should concern any news story that you see in the AP like this. What to know about Supreme Court's immunity ruling in Trump's 2020 case. Supreme Court's ruling Monday on former President Donald Trump's election interference makes it all but certain that a Republican will not face a trial in Washington ahead of November election. Or ever. Or ever. Because now you're going to have to prove it. The Supreme Court did not dismiss the indictment. Don't have to. But now he's got a case to actually move forward. You can move the case forward now, but now you have to decide, do you really want to do that? No. Now see, this is where they're putting words in there. His illegal schemed to cling to power after he lost President Joe Biden. See, this right here is where they're wrong. You have to prove that he did something illegal, and you have failed to do that, but yet you're calling what he did illegal. But the ruling still amounts to a major victory for Donald Trump, whose legal strategy is focused on delaying the proceedings. No, they focused on truth and justice and showing you assholes exactly who you are, which I think he's done. The timing of the trial matters because if Trump defeats Biden, he can appoint an attorney general who would seek dismissal of the case. He could, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't worry about it. Maybe he just goes on doing what he does best, and that's being presidential. Something you have failed to miss. And by the way, speaking of failing to miss, I'm going to go grab another cup of coffee. You guys hang out for just a few minutes while I go warm up my coffee, because it is cold as Trump's little beating heart. So I'll be right back in less than 2.
Morning sun, it's a brand new day. Gotta shake the sleep, gotta find my way to the kitchen where the coffee's hot. Take a little break, give it all I got. Rise and brew, yeah, rise and brew. Wanna get my cup and start anew.
All right, I'm back. Woo, coffee. Get some warmness in my body. The timing of the trial matters because if Trump defeats Biden, he can appoint an attorney general. He could, but he may not. Trump posted in all capital letters on his social media network, which who really cares? Because I don't read a social media network. I don't. And that they do just shows how far they've gone and how bad they're watching this guy. Hillary and Al Gore need to. God, it does go well with coffee. Thank you very much. Go pass out. Good luck and be safe out there. Good to see you, Sir Frank Otter. You have a wonderful, wonderful day. It's glad to see you. Yeah, so is that of concern to me too is the fact that the last 3 years they've proven there was a problem with the election in several states, from the government's performing to acts that go against state constitutions to double counting ballots, allow people to vote who shouldn't have, and accepting ballots long after the polls should have been closed. And three, no one form of fraud would have overturned an election, but cumulatively they could have. Yeah, absolutely. I understand. In remarks Monday evening, Biden said the court had done a terrible disservice to the American people, who he says deserves to know the outcome of the case before they head to the polls. And is this the same people that should have heard about Hunter Biden's laptop before going to the polls? Serious question. Do you think these same people would have voted for you if they knew how your son was spending his time and spending his money and spending the American people's money, and how much money was being paid to him from Ukraine, from Russia, from China? Do you think that the American people would have still voted for that 10% to the big guy? The American people will have to render judgment about Donald Trump's behavior. The American people must decide whether Trump's assault on our democracy. We already saw what he had to say. Well, the court's conservative majority doesn't matter. The court said former presidents have absolute immunity from prosecution for official acts that fall within their exclusive sphere of constitutional authority, and are presumptively entitled to immunity for all official acts. They do not enjoy immunity for unofficial or private actions. That right there is more important. We've already read all this. The order also directed additional analysis on various posts. Doesn't matter. They are what? You're going to listen to attorneys on X? You're going to listen to attorneys on YouTube? Are you a freaking Google attorney? These are all people making suppositions. They have not a damn clue. That includes me, which I'm not an attorney, but I am telling you right now, you don't have to listen to me. Read it your own damn self. And if you don't understand what it says, then look up the terminology. Don't read what you want to read out of it. Read what is actually in there. Hell, even read the dissenting opinion and see why they dissented. You'd be surprised why they dissented. The fake elector scheme doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Don't care. The dissenters doesn't matter. Don't care. Because the rule as it's written, this is just salty right here. And what comes next? The case will now go back to Chutkan. The trial was supposed to have begun in March, but the case has been on hold since December. What? Supposed to go on trial in March. Since December, to allow Trump to pursue his appeal. Wow, like the law allows. That's weird how that works, isn't it? The law allows for him to pursue appeal. Then it goes to the Court of Appeals, and then he can appeal it. That's how our justice system works. Our justice system should not be just randomly, willy-nilly going after people in a witch hunt like a democracy would do. He indicated that she would likely give the two sides at least 3 months to get ready for trial once the case returns to her court. That left the door open to the case potentially going to trial before the election if the Supreme Court, like the lower courts, had ruled that Trump was not immune from prosecution. But the Supreme Court's ruling must conduct further analysis, is expected to tie up this case for months with legal wrangling over whether the actions in the indictment were official or unofficial. Should have decided that before you went after him. Trump's other cases doesn't matter. What were the felony counts? What were the felony counts? What were the felony counts? And I guarantee you, wait for his day in court. Because they're saying it was falsifying business records. Falsifying business records. Other possibilities include fines or probations. It seems almost certain Trump's 2 other criminal cases will not go to trial before the election. Of course, an appeals court recently halted Trump's 2020 case, and while it reviews the lower court's judge's ruling allowing Fulton County District Attorney Willis to remain on the case, no trial has been set in that case. Trump's lawyers have asserted presidential immunity in that case, though there's been no ruling. And there goes that one. Trump was supposed to stand trial in May in another case brought by Smith. Why would Smith be bringing all these cases? Classified documents. Oh, but U.S. District Judge Kathleen Eileen canceled the trial date as the case got bogged down with legal issues. She has yet to schedule a new one. That case, too, involved a claim of immunity, and the prosecutors are disputing. Last week, Cannon set the stage with further delays by agreeing to revisit a ruling by another judge that permitted crucial evidence related to allegations of obstruction of justice by Trump to be introduced in the case. It wasn't obstruction of justice by Trump. It was by the FBI that added documents. A separate concurrence from Justice Clarence Thomas concluded that Smith's appointment was improper. And of course, no other justice has signed on to that. But weird how that happens. And of course, then you get the way that people want to talk about the Supreme Court, which I don't care about a NORC poll. AP, go suck wind. What does this matter in anything? Absolutely nothing whatsoever. Because I don't care if 10 out of 10 Americans think to you some freaking poll that you put up there. I don't care. Polls don't show what the American people actually think. It's skewed. It can give you a general idea, but it is so skewed, and I hate statistics, and they can just go pound dirt. All I care, it could be 11 out of 10 Americans believe that justices put ideology over impartiality. Don't care what they think. Don't care what they think. They are not an elected position. Supreme Court cast doubt on Florida and Texas laws to regulate social media platforms. This one right there. So the Supreme Court on Monday kept hold of its efforts on Texas and Florida to limit how Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, other social media platforms regulate content posted by their users in a ruling they strongly defend the platform's free speech rights. No, that makes them a publisher. This is what they should have argued. Writing for the court, Kagan said the platforms like newspapers deserve protection from government's intrusion in determining what to include or exclude from their space. The principle does not change because the curated compilation has gone from the physical to the virtual world. Wrote an opinion signed by 5 justices. All 9 justices agreed on the overall outcome. There you go. Justices returned the cases to lower courts for further review in broad challenges from trade associations for the companies, and so on and so forth. The Florida and Texas state laws were signed by Republican governors in the months following decisions by Facebook, Twitter, now X, to cut then President Donald Trump off over his post related to January 6th on the U.S. Capitol. Trade associations representing the companies sued in federal court, claiming that the laws violated the platform's speech rights. You don't have any speech rights because that would make you a publisher. One federal court's appeal struck down the Florida statute while the other upheld the Texas law. Both are on hold pending the outcome of the Supreme Court. While the cases are complicated, the First Amendment expert and noted, I don't care what Richard Garnett says. I really don't. Just because you're a professor. First Amendment protects what we choose to say, but also what we choose not to say, support or endorse. That is, the freedom of speech includes editorial judgment. No, that would make you a publisher. That means you are changing the words of what I'm saying. That means that you're changing my words. So you can't come after me telling me to change my words whenever you're rewriting what I said. That's Sir Otto made me get my keyboard back out and say, don't forget, one out of every 5 kids born in the world is Chinese. Therefore, that means if you have 5 kids, one of them will be Chinese. I love it. I love it. Yes, exactly. Thank you very much, Sir Frank Otter. That is the best analogy that I've heard in a long time. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Governor Greg Abbott signed into Texas law. He said it was needed to protect free speech in what he termed the new public square. Social media platforms are a place for healthy public debate where information should be able to flow freely, but there is a dangerous movement by social media companies to silence conservative viewpoints and ideas. That is wrong, and we're not going to allow that in Texas. I see no wrong with that. Free speech advocates hailed the ruling as a victory. The court's recognition that the government cannot control social media in an effort to impose its own vision on what online speech should look like is crucial to protecting all of our right to speech, our minds, and access information on the internet. Even if it's a lie, you should be able to post whatever the hell you want to, write whatever the hell you want to. It is freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of a free press, which means that I'm free to say whatever I want to. But social media companies don't believe that, and they will continue to squelch it behind the scenes. If you don't believe me, all you have to do is look at what they say about ads on my channel. I can tell you almost every single morning I have to come back and look and return my channel back the way that it was. I've got so many yellows on there that I don't receive any funding. And if I do, it's like pennies. Yeah. That's how much I make off of an ad. Pennies. Well, actually hundreds of pennies. Hundreds of pennies. I would have to have 100, like something like 10,000 watch hours just to receive like a penny. Like it's insane. Wow, expert's birthday is on the 4th, according to Twitter. Not to change the subject. No, that's pretty cool. Highlights from the Supreme Court term: rulings on abortion regulation and guns and homelessness. Well, they're just highlighting the term of the entire term, because they handed down a lot of decisions this past term, and they are going to disappear for a while. Supreme Court, you're not going to hear anything out of them for a period of time until they resume their session. I don't remember exactly when that is. I think it's next April or some crap like that. I don't know off the top of my head, but they will be back. Yep, the Chevron is the most long-term. Yeah, in your opinion? Yeah, there's quite a bit. And of course, we watch this right here. Supreme Court immunity ruling. Biden draws sharp contrast with Trump on obeying the rules of the law. And he went after Trump, showing exactly what they've been doing the entire time, that they are illegally going after a former president. Means they will continue doing that to the American people. Why are they so worried about this? Trump says he can end the Russia-Ukraine war in one day. And of course, Russia's UN ambassador says, nah, he can't. Just like he said that he could walk into North Korea, which he did. Just walked right in. Walked right across the border from South Korea to North Korea. You know what? The world didn't end. Things didn't stop. And still continue to call Kim Jong Un under the bridge, little rocket man. He did more for our country than a lot of people know. So the United Nations, well, this is the United Nations. Well, screw the United Nations. They don't know jack squat about America. Donald Trump has repeatedly said he could settle the war between Russia and Ukraine one day if he's elected again. And this is the ambassador to the UN, Russia's ambassador to the UN. Like, I give two shits what he has to say. When asked to respond from the claim, Vasily told reporters Monday that Ukraine crisis cannot be solved in one day. I bet it can. I bet it can. You know, it is simple as this. And people failed because they're so damn ignorant of all of it. But look back, and this is also something you need to be paying attention to. It is about to happen again. And I'll just give you a heads up. We're about to get shut down. America is about on the verge of a major shutdown. And it's not going to come in the form of what you think it's going to come. It's going to be using an old form, an old tactic. Okay, what pisses off Americans more than anything? What really gets them riled up? What really gets them riled up? Okay. Now I'm pointing it out now so you guys can be aware of it. Just watch the news and you'll see it over the next few months. You guys are in for a real treat. Let me put it this way. How many of you folks own airline stock? I'm not making any prediction or telling you what you should or may not do. But all things that I've been watching point to our air traffic being shut down. Not just, going from country to country, but here in the United States. I could be wrong. I may be right. I may be crazy. Boeing is bad. Boeing just bought or is in the talks to buy another airline that's having issues. Well, that doesn't stop there. There's airline workers that are talking about having a strike. Now, back during Ronald Reagan's term, right before he was brought in, the airlines decided they were going to strike. Yeah. Airlines said it was the air traffic controller said we're going to go on strike. It was right after Reagan came in. They decided they were going to go on strike. And what did Reagan do? He fired every single one of them. He made sure he told them, you are not going to stop. You're not going to stop. You're not going to stop the free flow of people moving from place to place. You are not shutting it down. It is everything that I'm seeing is pointing to another thing like that happening again. Shutting down air traffic, blocking people from being able to travel freely from place to place or quickly from place to place. It's coming. I don't know when, but it's coming. This is what I've been seeing. I'm making predictions now. Don't be surprised when it happens. Be prepared to have this go on in the news for a period of time. Better get down to Florida as soon as possible, I guess. This I'm telling you from everything that I've seen, it's one of those little niggling things underneath, that's sitting there like tickling the back of your mind that you see, but you don't really pay attention to. Something that I saw in the November of of 2019, I think it was. Yeah, November of 2019. Something back there fired off that didn't make quite sense. Hey, David Nelson, good to see you. Boyne was forced to make many bad decisions by politicians. Yeah, just like the housing market was forced to make bad decision. And we remember what happened with the housing market, don't we? Ah, yeah. Those were rules placed by politicians because they wanted it to be equitable, that everyone that might not be white deserved to own a house. And so they were told that we got your back until it became obvious that people could not afford the $1 million home that they were moving into. They couldn't even afford $100,000 home that they were moving into. And we watched the housing market crash. I know because I was right in the middle of it. My wife and I, we weren't married at the time, but bought a house. Yeah. Only planned on being there for a couple of years. Yeah, it took close to 10 years before we were able to move out of there. Great. Mhm. There it doesn't explain why they're having issues with maintenance of the aircraft. Yeah. Boeing just bought Spirit Systems, which is another supplier. Yeah. Squid Pro, Invisible Squid. I like it. Nice to know you're around checking things out. Oh, she has work. Like Boeing's spaceship stuck in orbit. Politicians threatened to take money away if they didn't make certain decisions, which led to some of these issues. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is where I see that we are going to have something happening within the airline industry that is not good. Not a good place to be. Not a good place to be. Not a good place for anybody to see. But I see it coming. I don't know why. I don't know why. And I'm hoping that I'm wrong. I'm hoping among hopes that I'm wrong. But I've just been seeing little things in the background that just don't make a whole lot of sense. And of course, we have news from across the pond into Europe. At 28, Bardella could become the youngest French prime minister at the helm of the national rally. Now, they want to call him far right, but I'm not going to do that because I don't know. In Nice, France, at just 28 years old, it's not nice, it's Nice. At 28 years old, Jordan Bardella has helped make the national rally the strongest political force in France, and now he could become the country's youngest prime minister after voters propelled Marine Le Pen's national rally to a strong lead in Sunday's first round of snap legislative elections. See, this really backfired in Macron. Bardella turned to rallying supporters to hand their party an absolute majority in the decisive round on July 7th. That would allow the Nationalist Party to run the government. No, it's not the Nationalist Party. See, they're saying anti-immigration Nationalist Party to run the government. Wow, they really do not like these guys at all. They have done everything except for call them racist. They've done everything but for coming and calling people to attack them viciously. They have done everything they can to talk crap about them. Wow, AP, way to report the news. All these adjectives that you're throwing them on there. Oh, man. Well, who is the National Rally president? Don't know. Don't care. All I know is France is making moves to go more towards the right. I think they got sick of the way that their country was being run. And it is going all the way across from the left to the right. How did he become movement's poster child? Don't care. What is he proposing for France? Oh, what is he proposing for France? It was Bardella who posted on X, called on Macron to dissolve the parliament and call early elections after the president's centrist group suffered a crushing defeat by the national rally at the European elections last month. Hmm. Well, and Macron did just that. Well, I don't think it was because he called on it. I think it's because Macron was forced to. So often wearing a suit and tie hit the campaign trail, toning down his pop star image to seem more like a statesman-like, and despite his lack of experience in government in recent months, the National Rally has softened some of its most controversial positions, including peddling back some of its proposals for more public spending and protectionist economic policies and taking France out of NATO's strategic military command. Yeah, once you start seeing why, you start changing your attitude. Yeah, France is beholden to the UN and to NATO. It sucks, but that is the way that it goes. Now, if the US pulls out of NATO, if the US pulls out of the United Nations, just imagine where that leaves the rest of the world. The amount of spending that the United States does is astronomical. That money should be brought back to not handle that. You can, if you want to have treaties with countries, you can keep the treaties. If you want to go by NATO's rules, you can go by NATO's rules. But the rest of those people can go pound dirt. No longer should we be supplying all of the money to NATO. No longer should we be supplying all of the money to pro border party. Well, yeah, that makes you crisis. The feeling of vulnerability people have to factors that are beyond their control calls for radical change in the minds of many voters. He has a clean slate and comes with no baggage of the past. So basically, they've made him immune to being attacked. Speaking of what the president just came out and said, Hunter Biden sues Fox News over explicit images featured in a streaming series. So, how does it feel, Melissa, to know that this man that you're standing right next to banged his sister in law, went after other kids that might be related to him? How does that make you feel there, sweetheart? Make you happy? Make you proud to be standing next to this guy? Stand by your man. Fox News, in a lawsuit of unlawfully publishing explicit imagism as part of a streaming series. The president's son filed suit on Sunday in a court in Manhattan over images in the trial of Hunter Biden, which debuted on the streaming service Fox Nation in 2022. The series featured a mock trial of Hunter Biden on charges he has not faced, and it included images of Biden in the nude and engaged in sexual acts. And guess where they got those from? They got those from a laptop that he refused to pick up. Yeah. It's public domain. You can't sue. Sorry. There's images out there of me. I can't sue over that. The lawsuit claims the dissemination of intimate images without his consented violated New York's so-called revenge porn law. Oh, he's doing this in New York. No. You consented the moment that you did not pick up your laptop, dummy. Bob's published and disseminated these intimate images to its vast audience of millions as part of an entertainment program in order to humiliate, harass, annoy, and alarm Mr. Biden to tarnish his reputation. I don't think they could tarnish it any more than it already is. Biden. Fox News spokesperson called it an entirely political motivated lawsuit that was devoid of merit in an emailed statement. The statement noted that attorneys for Biden sent them a letter demanding its removal from stream platforms in April of 2024. And they said, go pound dirt. The program was removed within days of the letter, in abundance of caution because Hunter Biden is a public figure who has been subject to multiple investigations, is now a convicted felon. Consistent with the First Amendment, Fox News has accurately covered the newsworthy events of Mr. Biden's own making, and we look forward to vindicating our rights in court. Hunter Biden was convicted last month of 3 felony charges related to the purchase of a revolver in 2018 when prosecutors argued the president's son lied on mandatory gun purchase form by saying he was not illegally using or addicted to drugs. The mock trial in the series involved charges of bribery and improper financial dealings with foreign governments. Charges that have not been brought against Hunter Biden according to the lawsuit, but they're still there. The lawsuit seeks compensatory damages and punitive damages in order to direct Fox to remove any copies of the explicit images. The lawsuit claims promotional materials have not been entirely removed by Fox and that the program is still available on some third-party streaming platforms. Tough titties. You damaged my car. What car? Exactly. That's like denting the car that's 90% rust, falling apart, won't start, has new tires, and the floor looks like Swiss cheese. Yeah, trust me, we had someone that tried that kind of crap in the dealership that I worked at. Little did they know that we had cameras, and not just any cameras, but 4K cameras on every single car as they were pulled into the shop. Okay. So there ended up being this big score down the passenger side of looked like a yellow pole down the side of their car. Well, they pulled their car in. Camera shot the whole thing. Pulled their car in. Car got worked on, and the mechanic, I think they did an oil change. Mechanic pulled the car back out. And next thing you know, he's being called into the office. Guy's complaining. There's a big yellow streak down the side of my car. Well, not only did they pull up the camera footage that showed him pulling the car in with the big yellow streak already down the side of his car, but we also managed to show him, and I think it was our shop foreman walked him around the entire building. We don't have a single yellow pole. All those concrete posts are blue. Every single one of them. None of them were yellow. So wherever he got it from, it was before he even pulled into our parking lot. It wasn't like he hit something in our parking lot and did anything wrong, but he probably hit something at some drive-through somewhere or something. Nobody knows. Yeah, he wanted to sue. They said, bring on the suit. They recorded the whole thing, walking around, looking at the car, showing him that there's no yellow posts. There hasn't been. They've never been yellow. They've always been blue back whenever it was a Dodge dealership. Amazing. Yeah, people are assholes. People are assholes. So we've got these fools that have gone crazy over the simplest things. Let me bring this up because this is important here. Don't care. Here it is. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer insists Biden can win her state and says she's behind him 100%. Of course, he could probably win your state. After Supreme Court immunity ruling, Biden draws sharp contrast. Could Democrats replace Biden as their nominee? Here's how it could happen, why it's unlikely. Lawsuit says Pennsylvania County deliberately hid decisions to invalidate some mail-in ballots. Don't care. AP decision notes what to expect in South Carolina state's primary runoff. South Carolina will hold runoff elections next week to decide a handful of races in which no candidate received a majority of the vote in the primary held just 2 weeks earlier. And this is where we're at. Supreme Court rules. Democrat Alyssa Scoten makes massive ad buy in Michigan Senate race. Influx of fundraising. Ground game Trump's VP contenders. Don't know, don't care. You're really worried about who it is? Because they're talking about all the people that have talked bad about Trump. Doug Burgum, Tim Scott, JD Vance, Rubio. That's it. That's all they got. Oh, T's T. Thank you so much. 5 gifted memberships. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Squid Pro Quo was gifted a membership. Ammo's Girl, Catherine W, K Matt Red Queen, Drexy. Make sure that you give T a big thank you. Thank you very much from me to you. That is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. There is also the what I spoke of earlier. Karen Reed murder case ends with a mistrial. I spoke of this earlier. Prosecutors say they will try again. And dead ham mass. Judge declared a mistrial Monday after jurors deadlocked in a polarizing and much watched case. And a lot of those people were probably watching it over on Baker's stream, as they should have done. A woman accused of striking her police officer boyfriend with her SUV and leaving him to die in a snowstorm. Prosecutors say they intended to retry the case in which the defense asserted that Reed had been framed by the police. Wow. On the 5th day of deliberation, jurors sent Judge Beverly Canhone, a note saying they remained at an impasse in the case. And with over 600 pieces of evidence and more than 70 witnesses, it was over. Folks, this is what it looks like when you bring false charges against an innocent person, defense attorney Alan Jackson told reporters on the steps of the courthouse. The Commonwealth did their worst. They brought the weight of the state based on spurious charges, based on a compromised investigation and investigators and compromised witnesses. Guess what? They failed. Norfolk District Attorney Michael Morrissey thanked the O'Keefe family in a statement for their commitment and dedication to this long process. They maintain sight of the true cause of this case to find justice for John O'Keefe. Then you need to look at those freaking police officers at least another 100 times, because there is some serious cover-up BS going on. Reed, a former adjuncted professor at Bentley College, faced second-degree redrum and other charges in the death of O'Keefe, a 16-year member of the Boston Police who was found outside his Canton home with bruised knuckles and with dog bites all over up and down his arms. Weird how that works. 60-year member of Boston Police who was found outside the Canton home of another Boston police officer. An autopsy found O'Keefe died of hypothermia and blunt force trauma. Prosecutors said Reed and O'Keefe had been drinking heavily before she dropped him off at a party at the home of Brian Albert, a fellow officer. They said she hit him with the SUV before driving away. Doesn't make sense, but okay. The defense sought to portray Reed as the victim, saying O'Keefe was actually killed inside Albert's home and then dragged outside. They argued that investigators focused on Reed because she was the convenient outsider who saved them from having to consider other suspects, including Albert and other law enforcement officers at the party. On Friday, a jury spokesperson told the judge that they hadn't reached a unanimous verdict. Despite an exhaustive review of the evidence, the judge told jurors to keep on trying, and on Monday morning, jurors said they were in an impasse, but the judge asked them to continue deliberating. In the afternoon, they said that it would be futile to continue. The deep division is not lack of effort or diligence, but rather a sincere adherence to our individual principles or moral convictions. O'Keefe's mother cried after the mistrial was declared, while Reed hugged her father and other relatives. The verdict was a win for the defense. Turning point in the case came when Michael Proctor, the lead investigator on the case, took the stand. He acknowledged sending offensive texts about Reed to friends, family, and fellow troopers during the investigation. He apologized for the language he used, but insisted they had no influence on the investigation. Right. That's why any damage on a vehicle should be reported on the repair order when the vehicle is written up. Absolutely. Always did that. Constantly. Always. It would be unusual whenever a vehicle would pull in to not have some circles and marks unless it was a brand new car. I mean, just the slightest little anything. It was constantly marked. Very curious about what evidence presented or had any jurors convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't know. Don't know. Proctor was relieved of duties and is on leave pending hearings into the investigation. Absolutely. And Chloe the dog is missing. The Alberts moved and sold undervalued too. Wonder if the jury will be investigated for bribery. I don't know about that. That's a tough thing to climb. Proctor is being rehomed with Chloe. Oh. Ah. Read to friends and family, fellow troopers during the investigation. He apologized for the language he used, but insisted they had no influence on his investigation. In his text, he called Reed several names, including a whack job, a see you next Tuesday, among other things. At one point, he texted his sister that he wished Reed would just self-delete, which he told jurors was a figure of speech. And despite having relationships with several witnesses, he still remained on the case. Yeah. On Monday, Massachusetts State Police relieved Proctor of duty, saying the move followed the agency's previous decision to open an internal affairs investigation after getting information about potential serious misconduct. Potential. It was blatant misconduct. And they went hard at him for that. They went hard for him after that. Oh my. Oh my. That is a big falsity. Yeah, they went after him in the most vicious way, which is what they should have done. They should have gone after him in every means of the law. Oh, two expert witnesses hired by, well, he's going to face a hearing where they'll decide how to proceed with his employment. But right now he's been stripped of all those duties. He's back to either secretary or coffee bitch, one of the two. Two expert witnesses hired by the U.S. Department of Justice during an investigation of police handling a case that testified for the defense, providing a scientific analysis of their conclusion that O'Keefe's injuries and physical evidence didn't sync with the prosecution's theory that he was struck and injured by Reed's 7,000-pound vehicle. O'Keefe had significant head injury and other injuries, but lacked significant bruising or broken bones typically associated with being hit by a vehicle at the speed indicated by GPS and the SUV's onboard computer. Saying that she had to be doing 25 miles an hour. No. 25 miles an hour in reverse, that's pretty damn quick. While the drama played out in a courtroom, dozens of Reed supporters dressed in pink gathered each day outside carrying Free Karen Reed signs and mobbing her when she arrived each day. A smaller group of people who wanted Reed convicted also turned up. Reed supporters cheered after word got out of the mistrial, but they acknowledged that the outcome wasn't all they hoped for and that she could be back in court again. Well, that is your justice system hard at work. It's not the verdict we were hoping for. We were hoping for a not guilty verdict. That is what a jury should have returned with evidence that was presented. A Canton resident who has described herself as being part of the sidewalk jury, but we accept the hung jury. We accept the mistrial. Don't care what you accept. That's what you're given, whether you like it or not. Even if she had been thrown in jail and found guilty, don't like it, you have to accept it. Now, you can always appeal, but that's what we have the court system for. Aiden Timothy Kearney, known online as Turtle Boy, and whose website and social media posts have attacked the prosecution's case for months, all the ruling bittersweet. It's amazing that Turtle Boy even got recognized by the AP. Man. And from what I understand, now I just heard this, so it's all complete hearsay, that somebody hung a turtle on his mother's doorstep. That's just wrong. That's just wrong. It's not the outcome we wanted. But I want full vindication, he said. But in my mind, the fact that so many people in that jury clearly are aware, the majority clearly is with Karen Reed. It's a small minority that is just stubborn and won't look at the facts and won't be impartial and is just judging her based on not liking her. Prosecutors relied on several first responders who testified that Reed admitted that she hit O'Keefe, saying, "I hit him," as well as evidence that Reed was legally intoxicated or close to it 8 hours later after she returned to the house with friends and they found the body. Several witnesses testified the couple had a stormy relationship that had begun to sour. Prosecutors presented angry texts between the couple hours before O'Keefe died. He also played voice messages from Reed to O'Keefe that were left after she allegedly struck him, including one left minutes afterwards saying, "John, I effing hate you." Story has been corrected to show the Norfolk District Attorney's surname is spelled Morrissey, not Morrissey. Did the onboard computer have a crash detection system? I don't know. I don't know anything about that. Pray the FBI comes in like a wrecking ball. Yeah. You pray that that does happen. You pray that there is some justice found. It is insane to me that they think we care. All right, back to some more of the craziness here of the left because they are having to cope. They're having to cope.
I'm so angry and disgusted with this country today. The Supreme Court ruling that Donald Trump has immunity for any criminal official acts he committed while president. That's not
Criminal
the America
official
the
acts?
founders fought for. That's not why we declared our independence on this July 4th week.
Well-
Sotomayor noted in her dissent that the president is now much more akin to a king, to an emperor, than they are to a president. And honestly, this decision now motivates me more than ever to ensure that Donald Trump is defeated, because that is absolutely the best thing that we can do right now. Look, you can think what you want about Joe Biden. I don't really care. I really do not care what you think, because
This guy's receding hairline is worse than a forehead. It is like a 10 head.
allowing Donald Trump back into office is beyond disastrous. Donald Trump, if reelected, would implement Project 2025 on
Oh, that's right. Oh, I was going to talk about that today. Project 2025. Have you heard about this one? Ha, 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 ha. Oh, yeah. Let me bring that
day
thing up.
one. He would abolish the Department of Education.
So everything that this guy says after Project 2025 should be ignored. If you don't know what Project 2025 is, it is something that was written by the Heritage Foundation. Yeah. It was something that was written by the Heritage Foundation, and let me show you exactly what it is, because there is something amiss with this BS. And I saw this yesterday come across all of the Twitter feeds and all that kind of crap. And I was like, something doesn't sit right with me here, because I've never heard of some Project 2025. I was like, this is some BS that I'm not understanding quite. Project 2025 is right here. About Project 2025 is building now a conservative victory through policy, personnel, and training. The actions of liberal politicians in Washington have created a desperate need and unique opportunity for conservatives to start undoing the damage the left has wrought and build a better country for all Americans in 2025. It is not enough for conservatives to win elections. We are going to rescue the country from the grip of the radical left. We need both a governing agenda and the right people in place ready to carry this agenda out on day one of the next conservative administration. This is the goal of the 2025 presidential transition project. Project will build on 4 pillars that will collectively pave the way for an effective conservative administration, policy agenda, personnel training, and a 180-day playbook. This sounds hokey. Yeah, it looked like a hairpiece. Yeah, Abe Lincoln basically suspended the rule of law. They got names and information about bigger fish. Yes. That is very true. Darcy, FBI put heat on some people in this case. They got what they needed from the FBI. Is looking for bigger fish, wouldn't count on them intervening in this case. The auto brake system in the car registers objects. It did not register anything before the so-called impact. The project is the effort of broad coalition of conservative organizations that have come together to ensure successful administration begins on January 2025 with the right conservative policy recommendations. So this right here is independent from the president. The president hasn't endorsed it. He hasn't signed on to this. He hasn't done anything. This is what the heritage longstanding mandate for leadership, which has been highly influential for presidential administrations since Reagan. Most recently, the Trump administration relied heavily on the mandate for policy guidance, embracing nearly 2/3 of heritage proposals within just 1 year in office. Doesn't mean that he endorsed it. It just means he used some of the ideas, or maybe some of those ideas were already there. Doesn't mean they influenced this whatsoever. So for this guy, Mr. Hairpiece here, to say that he's endorsing it, this guy right here, would be completely false. But yet, this is the lie that the left is going to be telling you, and listen to the rest of his ranting.
He would fire 50,000 civil servants and replace them with MAGA loyalists. He would sign a national abortion ban on day one.
Really?
We cannot allow that to happen. And now that Donald Trump knows he has immunity from the Supreme Court, he can commit any number of criminal and treasonous acts while president.
No, he can't. No, because you're not allowed to commit treason. Okay. There's certain things that you can't do. You have to follow the rules of the Constitution, and committing treason would be against the rules of the Constitution. Go back and fix your hairpiece, son.
We cannot allow that to happen. We all have to ensure, if you're watching this, if you're still watching this, I need you to promise me that you will do everything in your power to help defeat Donald Trump.
Is he sleeping in his basement in his mom's house? I swear to God, that looks like a basement. That's exactly what this is. This guy sleeps in his mom's basement. Holy smokes. Because I'm looking and I see over here the low-hanging piece right here. That's usually what you'll find in a basement. How do I know? Because if I turn my camera up, there's a low-hanging vent right here. Because the basement was built after. This is an extension. So my office is in the basement. If my office is in the basement and that's got that thing there, that's basement. This is a couch in his mom and daddy's basement. He's got a upright freezer over here. Holy crap. He lives in his parents' basement. And you want me to listen to this guy?
And ensure that he is not reelected. We have no other option at this point.
No, you have plenty of options. You have plenty of options. Call him Basement Boy. Hey, Basement Boy. How are you, son?
We have to vote for Joe Biden and defeat Donald Trump. That's where we're at.
Oh, really? Is that what you think? Well, son, that's not how it works. But you have that meltdown. You have that meltdown. Oh, God. Oh, my God. I can't show one of these because it'll just get me in all kinds of trouble. That is the serious meltdown, though. But we have some good news. We have something that's more enjoyable, much more enjoyable. And for anybody that is on the other side of the pond, I know that some of you are on the other side of the pond, stars you hopefully, but many times it's not done publicly. People are moved to other positions. Department failing up is not unknown in almost every state, not just Mass. But yeah, that is crazy. So this is awesome. This is an awesome thing. Here we go.
Way too much. Coming me as a Brit, living in the USA, about to try Texas barbecue for the first time.
Oh yeah.
So I got the food. Back season tour is in full effect. So I got a 3 meat plate first. It's got ribs, brisket, and jalapeno cello sausage. So let's give this a go. Also got mac and cheese and collard greens. Collard greens. So
Yeah. Good stuff. If they're
collard
done
greens
right.
first.
So with collard greens, they have to be done right. You got to have your bacon in there. You got to have that just right amount of vinegar that happens in there. And the collard greens turn out awesome.
Yeah. Mac and cheese.
Oh yeah. If you get a good mac and cheese,
Oh my gosh. It made me whisper.
oh, it gets better.
This is really good mac and cheese. This might be one of the best I've had since I've been here. First rib. Let's go.
Now that right there does not look like a baby back rib. That looks like a Kansas City style rib. Okay.
Yo. Now I see what you're telling me.
Oh yeah.
Wow. This is good. Jalapeno sausages with cheddar.
It's called a jalapeno, but we'll forgive you because you're a Brit.
Listen, selfish. Absolutely. Look at my fingers.
This gets better.
To be a gentleman.
No, trust me, that's what you're wanting to do. You're wanting to lick those fingers. That's some good food right
All
there.
right. So
Now, Texas barbecue is not all about pork. Texas barbecue is beef. That is Texas barbecue. Texas barbecue is beef. Now, if you want Southern barbecue, you're going to find pork. Yeah.
here's the brisket. The money.
And that's not even done really well. I mean, I'm sure it's good compared to what he's had before, but my brisket, you would not be able to pick up my brisket like that. If you picked up my brisket like that, then it's not done. Because my brisket will fall apart before you even are able to pick it up like that. I mean, it's like my brisket is like butter. So if he's picking up that right there, then it hasn't been cooked long enough. Or it was cooked too fast. One of the two. Low and slow is how you got to cook it. Yeah. My brisket is moist. My wife, she's a Southern girl. I grew up on Texas style barbecue. I didn't know it at the time, but that's what I grew up on. We didn't have a whole lot of like pork. It's not because of religious or anything like that. We just didn't have a whole lot of pork. I think it was because my grandfather was a pig farmer, so it was just sort of don't really want to deal with the pork. I think we might have pork chops or something like that, but my mother couldn't barbecue. Also, living in the Midwest, didn't really have a whole lot of barbecue. But brisket was a different story. They would slow smoke that stuff. Whenever I first started having barbecue, that's what I had was Texas barbecue. Fall apart is the best. Yeah, and I did a brisket. I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a really cool story after this. It's good.
The money. Let's give it a go.
Yeah, see him having to pull it like that. My brisket, nope, you bite into it. You can cut my brisket with a butter knife.
Give me a cool one, Mom. Mom. I ain't coming home. I'm not coming home, I said. Cancel the flight. Mom, they got this stuff called brisket over it. I'm not coming home. To eat what? I know what you're thinking. Big back tour, just another normal meal for us. Okay. Look at this then, love.
Now that's what my brisket has, that nice cap done on it like that.
Look at this. Look at this. This is a dino
That's a
rib, they
beef
said.
rib. That's a beef
Look at the
rib.
bone. What animal is this?
Now I do beef short ribs also. I put those on the grill. Ooh, I think I'll get some to unthaw for this weekend. Yes.
Try this.
Oof.
Oh my God. You know what's funny? I got a bunch of sauces. I don't need them for any of this food.
No.
This is amazing. Like the salt and pepper on top, this bit is so good. British people, yes to this. Selfish you are. Yes. Wow. Right.
Yes. Absolutely. Now you're hungry. Dang. Is brisket easy to cook? It is time consuming because it has to be done low and slow. You have to get the fat to render to separate inside of the meat. Whenever it does, it moistens up. Now, the brisket that I cooked, which was an 8-pound brisket, I had 8 people. 2 of them were children and 2 of them were teenagers. And if you know anything about teenagers, they're bottomless pits. So I cooked an 8-pound brisket and there was none left at the end of the night. I cut off a little piece for everybody after I finished. And I think that brought everyone in to join in on the festivities. It was by far one of my better briskets. It took, let's see, I started that brisket at midnight the night before. It was about 11 o'clock the night before. At about 2 o'clock the next day, it was done. It was done cooking on the grill. And then it goes into getting cold. So you bring it up to about 200. For me, I bring it up anywhere between 196 and 201 degrees is where I bring the temperature of that. Now, I cook it at about 225. So it takes a while to cook. Now, whenever it's done cooking on the grill, about the stall, which hits about 160, 163, somewhere around in there is where the stall hits. That's whenever I wrap it in paper. Okay. But because I knew that we weren't having dinner until later, I put it in the oven at a keep warm temperature. Okay. So it's wrapped. It's got aluminum foil over the top of it. I keep my thermometer. Thank you. Thermometer in the beef, and then I set it inside the oven on keep warm, the lowest setting, which I think sits around 135. And as it cools, it starts absorbing all that rendered back into the meat, keeping it moist. And then when it reaches the nice warm temperature of about 140 degrees, I'd like to pull it out at about 141. It is done. It is ready to be sliced and cut. So altogether, that brisket took close to 19 hours cooking, or was getting heat to it. And yes, it is very easy to cook. You just have to monitor your temperature and keep your temperature good. Or you can do what, all the Yankees do and throw it into a crock pot and slow cook it for like 8 hours. But you can only put like a 2-pound, 3-pound brisket inside of a crock pot. You don't want to get too bad. Yeah, meat coma. Oh yeah, the boys were in a serious meat coma. Now the story is worse than that. I'll tell you what happened. So, brother-in-law was supposed to be coming up from Florida. I was supposed to be cooking a brisket. It was Friday night. I might have been abiding a little bit of the alcohol, and the day before they were supposed to get here, we were doing our nice big cleanup and getting everything straightened up. And I cleaned up the grill, had it ready to go, and was actually talking to someone backstage after Friday Night Live. And I walked out and I put my brisket on the grill. I had it fired up, sitting at about 225, threw it on the grill, and went inside. And after about an hour, letting it cook, just keeping an eye on the temperatures, it equalized out, was sitting at a good 225. I took my happy ass to bed. I woke up at 5 in the morning to check on my brisket. And whenever I opened up the grill, I realized that I had not put down the grate. The brisket was sitting on top of the egginator, because I use a big green egg to smoke it, by itself, and the bottom of it was burnt to a crisp. 8-pound brisket burnt to a crisp on the bottom, sitting at about 350 degrees. Yeah, big oops. For me to cook another brisket would have taken too long. I bet. No, this just happened over last weekend, so I haven't had the opportunity to do it again. But yeah, I bet I don't ever do that again. I'll make some other mistake. I've made plenty of them. But no, I managed to pull the brisket out. I checked it outside of the burnt portion on the bottom of it. The meat is cooked fine. The top of it is got a little bit of bark on there, but it's not bad. So my plan is, because it was, like I said, a 10-pound brisket, and I make a mean ass brisket chili from smoked brisket. My plan is to cut the bottom half of it off while it's unthawing, remove that, keep the best part of the meat that's at the top half, and then I'm going to use that in my brisket. I'm going to slow cook that just to make sure that it stays nice and tender. And we will see. So I had a 6-pound brisket. That's about right. Now it was after it was done, it was probably about 6 pounds, but I'll probably have to trim off a good portion of it. So it may be about 4 pounds of meat. I've cut it in half, and I'm going to take one half of it, trim off the bottom of it, take and use the rest of that, put that into a slow cooker to get some more absorption to it. I'll usually cook that with a beer. Probably on low for about 2 hours should do it. 2 to 3 hours should bring all of the moisture back into it. And if it doesn't, and it doesn't taste good, then I won't use it in my chili, and I still have some frozen brisket that I did from last fall. So that should be plenty good. We shall see. We shall see. But yeah, that's my story of how I can completely screwed up a brisket as my brother-in-law was traveling in. Needless to say, we did have barbecue that night, but it was from a local barbecue joint that does pretty good brisket. And they've had my butt before. Like I've done a what, 8, 10, 11, about 11-pound butt before. So, and I used that excess meat left over to make a Brunswick stew. I had a little bit of chicken in there, and boom, it's done. Those are the things that I do. I cook like a madman, especially whenever it's not as hot as it's been. Whenever it starts getting up in the 90s, it's a little more difficult to keep that grill at a good temperature. A little bit harder. I'm able to do it, but still just I have to baby it a little bit more. And I'll probably do another brisket at least 2 or 3 more times before the winter comes. Yeah. And my wife used to not eat brisket because it was always, whenever she would go to a barbecue joint, they did it. They would cook their brisket, Georgia style or Southern style, which they just dry the shit out like crazy. They don't know how to wrap properly. Or they wrap it in aluminum foil, which gives it too much. It takes away the bark for it. So you got to have that nice balance in there, and paper does really well. But yeah, every brisket that I've done has only gotten better except for one. that one got burnt to a crisp. Oh yeah, that's my story for the day. But everybody, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire you guys over to go hang out with Mo. Hopefully I'm able to join her a little bit later today, where she has a nice bit of ranting that she's going to be doing. All you fine people, you have a wonderful day, and I will see you very soon. Peace.
Now I gotta call somebody to come get me because my car turned into a spaceship and I don't know how to fly it. I'm not an astronaut.